There was a child went forth every day, and the first object he looked upon, that object he became, and that object became part of him for the day, or a certain part of the day, or for many years, or stretching cycles of years. In that poem, Walt Whitman says that what we look upon, we become. If that's true, should we be worried?
Hey.
Oh, big one!
Stop it!
Sure, I watch TV, but I know it's just junk. I just do it to relax.
I just come in the house and turn it on. It's company.
The truth is, I can't not turn it on.
The average American home has the television set going over 7 hours a day, every day, all year around. The habit of watching television doesn't seem to be hurting anyone, and that may be its greatest danger. Let's look at the price we really pay for free entertainment. Take family life, for instance.
We never talk at dinner the way we did when I was growing up.
I don't mind. It stops the fighting.
They never notice what I cook, so I just don't bother anymore.
What is it we're supposed to say to each other anyway?
Older Americans watch more TV than anyone else. It gives them the illusion of company. But the truth is that the more they watch, the more isolated and alone they become. Soon it becomes too much effort to get dressed, get out and face actual conversation with someone. But the elderly aren't the only ones who are cut off from real life. Heavy television watchers report feeling alone even when they're watching with someone. In pre-television times, people tended to get together with friends to relax, talk, share experiences, have fun. These relationships formed the basis of a support system that could be counted on in times of need. This can't happen unless somebody turns the television off.
There's nothing wrong with staying home with your wife and watching TV.
It's our way of spending time together.
And what about the segment of our society which has the most to do in the least amount of time? What group must learn thousands of eye motor skills, must memorize by trial and error hundreds of new words, must experience scores of emotions, some to be expressed and some to be restrained? Children have much to learn in the first 5 years, and most they must teach themselves by direct experience. But do they? Children between 2 and 5 average nearly 4 hours of TV a day. And for many, it's much, much more. It steals precious time from those years when there is so much to be experienced firsthand.
If it weren't for TV, I'd never get a chance to fix a meal. Have you ever tried to do anything with a 2-year-old under your feet all day long?
Don't they learn from TV? I've read that somewhere.
Hey.
Sure they learn. They learn the commercials, they learn about new toys, and they learn that their attention span only has to be 5 seconds.
The trick selections for... I love your honeybee necklace. You got the Trump-Kid sunglasses.
Although almost everyone can understand the life learning television robs from children, not everyone is aware of the reality grounding it robs from the rest of us. The fact is that most of what is presented on television is especially created for that little screen and has no reality other than that. Being there on the screen is everything. Once again, the medium is the message, and the message is what appears on the screen is important. And gradually, in spite of ourselves, the things and people we see become important to us. The more times a person or product appears on the screen, the more important it becomes. Television is not showing us what is important in the real world, but what is important to television itself, its own survival. It creates its own value system of what is real. As you watch an evening of television, you start to feel that you are part of a national American community. Proceeding from show to show, you experience a form to it, and it's friendly and familiar, and it seems like your world. It isn't. Your family is your world. Your body and its health is your world. Your soul and your spirit and your creativity are your world. What you accomplish is your world. What happens on your block is your world. These are the things that make up the matrix of our life. Here's where we can be effective during the time of our life, the very brief, dwindling time of our life. There's another aspect of television that weakens our grasp on reality, and it has to do with the sheer volume of programs available to us.
Every night there's so many different programs that when the time comes to go to bed, they're all mixed up in my head. And I usually dream about what I've seen.
When we take in too much stimuli, a part of our mind automatically shuts down. It's a survival mechanism, and it happens when we've watched hours of television.
I hate that feeling when the TV's turned off.
Everything looks so strange for a while.
People who watch a lot of TV have to shut down on a constant basis. Shutting down becomes an automatic reaction to stress. Non-involvement and passivity become character traits, and we get cheated out of the experiences that make life worth living.
This is News Center 4.
Good evening.
A majority of people cite television news as the most valuable TV programming.
It begins the evening. It starts everything out.
I wouldn't miss the 6 o'clock news for anything.
But because of the restrictions of time, even in news, a fiction is created. Of the nightly network news shows that run 30 minutes, 8 minutes of that is commercials. During the remaining 22 minutes, a summary of that day's events is read off a teleprompter by responsible-looking men and beautiful young women. This summary is comprised of what a few people who run that network news department think will be important to most of the American people. Frequently, they are wrong, but no one really complains. We accept the fact that television time costs a lot of money, and after all, we can always read it in the newspaper. The trouble is we don't. 75% of Americans use TV as their main source of news. So what you see is all most people get. We're watching Dan Rather give a story on a new tax bill which Congress passed today. The television report runs 20 seconds. Here's the coverage of the same story in the newspaper. The story is 1,000 words, and if read aloud would take 6 minutes. It gives a breakdown of the areas in which the bill is going to make changes, how much those changes will be, and who will be affected. An accompanying article gives a blow-by-blow account of the Senate debate, and that's another 1,000 words. Television cannot give in-depth coverage. The sad part is that viewers have the illusion they're getting it. They aren't. But there's another reason news stories are so brief. Research has shown that people can only take in so much at a time, and if that limit is exceeded, the normal reaction is to move away from the source. In other words, change channels. A network can't take that risk. So everything we see on TV is broken down into short time units called segments, so that they can be easily digested. Some would say pre-digested. And that way we viewers will stay interested without having to strain too much. See, if you and enough people like you change the channel, it'll be registered in the little boxes of those 1,700 families whose television watching is monitored by the A.C. Nielsen Company, and the rating of that show will decrease. The rating is based on the number of sets turned to a channel during a particular time slot. Advertising rates, that is, the amount of money networks and stations can charge for a commercial like this, are based on that rating. So each station must do everything it can to keep you tuned in at all times. And television has something else going for it. Unknowingly, it reproduces the condition of trance induction, or what is more commonly known as brainwashing. When a person sits comfortably in a darkened room, removed from all sensation except a moving light, their body tends to drift into an alpha state. This is a condition normally associated with daydreaming or falling asleep. The result is that for many of us, it becomes almost impossible to turn the TV off unless we are jolted by our heads nodding or disrupted by a radical change in the program. And once in this state, we'll watch anything. 90% of viewers misunderstand what they see on TV. And worse, they develop a distorted view of reality. In tests, it was shown that heavy TV watchers have exaggerated ideas of the crime rate. The teenagers want prestigious professions, but make unrealistic estimates of the education required for them. And then there is the subtle warping of our value system. You see, for the average 7-hour-a-day television-watching family, the single television category that makes the most impact on the brain is that great onslaught of illiterate, materialistic, demoralizing claptrap called commercials. Letting these companies advertise in our living rooms is the bargain we make for receiving the programs. The average American viewer watches 18,000 commercials a year. 18,000 messages to buy something he probably doesn't want and certainly doesn't need enter most of our minds and are processed there one way or another. They're more remembered than anything else because they use proven techniques of imprinting. They are comprised of the shortest length segments, employ the most amount of visual tricks, catchiest music, and are, of course, repeated constantly. You think you're immune to all this? Well, think about it. Would millions of dollars a year be spent on TV advertising if it had no effect? It works. Because of commercials, we have become relentless consumers. Our conversation is sprinkled with brand names, and so are our clothes. TV advertising has its own morality, true to the values of the marketplace. On television, improving appearance is more important than improving character, and decisions are based on impressing friends, with the cleanliness of our dishes, our hair, our laundry. Impressing others is more important than being ourselves, even if we have to fudge a bit. Since television's impact in the early 60s, the average SAT scores for high school students have gone down steadily. The current generation is the first to be less skilled than its parents. An adult performance level test found that 20% of the American population is functionally incompetent in being able to perform basic kinds of tasks, like reading a want ad, filling out a job application, counting change. But who cares about all this? Who cares if we are influenced by a source which doesn't nurture us? Who cares if we become passive observers of life, strangers in nature and lonely with those closest to us? If our grasp of reality is shaky, if we lack natural support groups to help us in times of need, if we are superficially informed by legions of conflicting experts who cause us to view everything with mistrust, accepting the necessity for television itself, why should we care? Because it's diminishing the quality of our lives, because it puts our democracy at risk, because it makes us susceptible to leaders who present themselves like talk show hosts, and makes us vulnerable to easy answers for our nation's problems, answers that can be presented in short segments. You see, it's not the programming that is the problem. It is the habit of watching, a habit which is hard to break, but once done, opens you up to a depth of thought and feeling and knowledge which television never even touched. Go out and experience the world firsthand and discover how powerful you are.